Okay guys, so in this video it's going to be pretty short. I'm just going to explain a little more in detail some of the differences in the pronunciations. So this is just a Wikipedia site, IPA for Japanese, and you can click on each one of these and see what it is and if it's in English and, comparable sounds, stuff like that. So I'm going to speak both from this and also from speaking, asking questions of my sensei and just listening to Japanese people speak. Okay, so we got your basic similar types of sounds. Here we get to the Z line, which, refer to my last video and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Usually it's just Z, but with some speakers, and specifically when there's a pause before the word, you can get z, raw z, you'll notice. It's a different sound, z and z. Sometimes you get that z, but it's not like there's a rule you have to use z here or you're going to be wrong. No, don't worry about that. Just use z and do what comes naturally, and I'm sure there won't be any problems. The J, so G, is the main place where you see that. Of course, you can also have things like Jew by having the small u. So, how's that pronounced? Generally, J, like gelatin. So just a normal J, J. But J, fusion, you'll notice. I would say this is way, way, way more common. But see, here's the thing I noticed while I was abroad. I wasn't abroad in Japan, but I've been abroad and just looking at different languages and things. The sounds j and zh are actually pretty close to each other. We don't think about that in English, but think about how you make them, for example. They're pretty darn close. And for some languages, it's a much easier leap to change a sound to zh from j. Now, English is weird. We take an S and we pronounce it zh, but, don't worry about that. But sound-wise, I'm sure you can say a j here, and it's not going to be a problem. And if you're speaking quickly, it's certainly not going to be a problem. People aren't going to pick up on it much. But you might hear j on occasion, and just realize that's going to be j. It's probably going to be very light because it's going to be quick. Goju, goju, very similar. So yeah, don't worry about that. This I already explained. This would be for the funny little penguin guy that I talked about. It's not. This is a bad transcription. If you go to there's a phonology page for Japanese, and it's not who, it's who. Trust me, any Japanese speaker will tell you that. So yeah, these are all the same, all the same, all the same. Sometimes when you have that in that looks like this, that's just that's nothing else. Sometimes it'll sound like just sometimes it also takes on like when you say sing, you don't actually have the g there, but it's that nasal in. I'm going singing. You have two of them in that word, inging. Okay, so nihon would actually be a little bit of a nasal in, but if you say nihon, it's no problem. If you say it with a normal in, that's fine. People will understand. It might be difficult to add just... This one's not difficult. Nihon. It's not difficult to add that NG, nasal G, or nasal in sound. Long. Yeah, it's not difficult, but it's there, just letting you know. Same idea. Pink. That's more of the true n sound, and that's where you have it here in the middle of the word. So just letting you know that difference is there. Sometimes you'll hear but you probably won't pick up on it as an English speaker because we think of that being the same sound, and but it's really not. But yeah, but you can get away with either for the most part. P's the same. R I explained. Look at my first hiragana video to see that. it's different. This kind of, I don't agree fully with how they describe it here because your tongue is not flat when you do that, and yeah, it's not exactly accurate, but that's okay. Otherwise, yeah, everything is accurate. Don't worry about this. um, I thought these were good examples that they used here. When you have a long vowel, notice this is J-I-I, Oji-san. Here it's re-equalize, because you can't say re-equalize. It's not accurate to say re-equalize. It has to be re-equalize. You're like repeating it, but they slur together, so it becomes a long E. Same idea here. You don't say big gram. You say big gram. You slur them together, but that ends in a stop because you have two of them. And yes, that's the example I actually used. I got it from here in my my last video. So not the same as big gram. Big gram. Same here. This would be with only one P, seppuku. With this is seppuku. Okay? And sometimes, not very often, but every once in a while you get a tonal drop. For example, the word kami can have three different tonal stresses because it can mean paper, it can mean God, you know, different things. So just so you know, it doesn't come up often, and generally it's not that important if you mess up on the tone or don't know how to do the tone or whatever. It doesn't come up much. It's just kind of functionally what they do. But if you don't say it right, they're going to know what you're talking about, because it's not going to say make sense to say I just prayed to paper or could you pass me God. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. So, and then the vowels, like I said, always the same. These two, there's this one here and this one here. Technically, they're right. It is a different vowel. It's the strong in English where it's upside down and stuff. In fact, it might even be a little more silent. We already talked about it uh, with verbs in my last one, where the oo is at the end in verbs, where it's su. So you just say des. You don't say desu. But usually oo is oo, and usually I is, or e is e. So, okay, so that actually, I made that take longer than it should have and longer than it needed to. If you ever want to look up this URL, it's right here, or just type into Wikipedia IPA for Japanese. And I hope that has been useful for you. So yeah, now you know how to pronounce Japanese properly.